So we're going to break down the 3 Wizards games. I know that Tim was planning to join us, but I know that he may have gotten caught up with something. If he gets to join us later, that's great. If not, we can break it down. I may even I haven't talked to Tim about this, but maybe I'll have Tim live in the man cave next week, since I know that he's a big fan of both the Capitals and the Wizards as well. And so that might be fun to do. It'll be a live Caps game against Carolina, and we'll obviously recap that Colts game at the very end. But let's talk about the Wizards for a little bit. The first game was in Indiana. It started off with the Wizards outscoring the Pacers 36-25. And then in the second quarter, they outscored them 20. The Pacers came back, outscored them 27-24. Then the Wizards outscored them 27-25 in the third. And then the Pacers came back a little bit, but the Wizards were able to hold on for a 114-107 victory. Kyle Kuzma had a good game with 22. Bradley had 23. And just overall, I'm going to get a little bit more water, but why don't you have Champ? Why don't you start off with your thoughts on this game, and then Arun gives some statistical breakdown after that.
Okay, so this was a great way to start off your season, going up against a pretty talented Pacers team. You had Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma both put up double-doubles to open the season. Wizards shot very well from the field, a lot better than the Pacers did, even though both teams equally shot 35% from three-point land, which is to be expected, if you want to say that. But they out-rebounded the Pacers. They were much better in the paint than the Pacers, 58 points in the paint to the Pacers 34. So clearly they're using their strengths of in the paint with someone like Porzingis and someone like Kuzma, and they really played well against this team. So this was how you want to start off your season. You want to start off very effectively. You got a 7-point victory. You played well. And by the way, this game right here was a history-making game, because for the first time in Washington Wizards/Bullets history, in a season opener, they went wire to wire winning. They never trailed in this entire game. They led by as much as 18 points and ended off winning by 7. They never trailed in this game. First time ever in Washington basketball history that they never trailed and won in their season opener. That's how you make a statement when you want to open your season after the tough season you had last season.
Yeah, the Wizards, they did win wire to wire, although in the fourth quarter got a little bit close at the end of that game. They were up by like, I believe, double digits and 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but with like 30 seconds left, the Pacers closed within 3 points, but then became a foul shooting game, and the Wizards ended up pulling away. And right before tip-off, Miles Turner, he ended up getting injured in warm-ups, and he's like a defensive player, kind of caliber player of the year kind of player. He's always in like the top 5 in that category in a couple of years, but he was out. And so a former Maryland player, I believe, he started at center for the Pacers, but the Pacers, they couldn't really stop the Wizards in the paint throughout this game. And Bradley Beal had a pretty efficient game, 22 points. Porzingis, he was on fire like for most of this game. And Kyle Kuzma, last year he had like a 26-point and 15 rebound game in the opening game against the Pacers, or second game of the season. This game he had 22 points and 13 rebounds. Denny left the game with an injury, but even when he was on the floor, the Wizards outscored the Pacers by 14 points. So overall, a pretty impressive performance by the Wizards. I think Rui was a little bit off, but I think he's just getting used to coming off the bench. And Gafford with a couple monster slams, and Will Barton made his debut, Baltimore native, with 14 points off the bench.
Yeah, I'm super excited with, going into, this is one of those teams where I think we're going to be fighting for the 8th spot. Because I think the Pacers could be good this year. It's hard to know this early, who's going to be good. But
the Pacers are going to be pretty bad. I think they're going to be the
You
bottom
do?
of these.
Okay. Well, because I mean, but the last couple of years they've been pretty good, right? So, but they did lose some pieces. I will admit that. But then it's even more of a reason it's a team that you have to beat, even on the road, even in a home opener. So, it's important to start the season off strongly. Because there are going to be lulls, obviously, in the season as well. So I was happy to see that they could get this win on the road and then kind of going forward, be able to take that with them into their home opener. And which I thought was a really exciting victory as well for the Wizards. Real quickly, I'll break down the scoring in that one. They were outscored 30-26 in the first quarter, but in the second quarter, they came on real strong. Outscored them 30-20. Then the Bulls came back a little bit, outscored them 24-21 in the third. And then they actually outscored them in the fourth too, 26-25. They, in fact, it was very close down the stretch, but a big shot by Bradley Beal with under 10 seconds left in the game. And then a great defensive effort to keep the three from going down. I know that we were holding our breath a little bit with that potential game-winning shot happening. I'll start with you, Champ. What are your thoughts on this home opener?
The electricity in the arena was absolutely amazing. It was really great. The intros to start out, it was really, you could tell like the fans were really, even though we were coming off a very disappointing season last season, they were hyped for what they wanted to see from this team this season. And the Wizards went out and matched that energy with their gameplay. Yeah, it came down to a very crucial shot from the face of the franchise, Bradley Beal, but they went out and they played a very, very good game. Was it clean? Not in the least. They had more turnovers than Chicago by 16-13. But they played to their strengths, which was in the paint. They had 44 paint points as opposed to Chicago's 34. They shot 51% from the field as opposed to Chicago's 41%. Shot much better from three than Chicago, 38% to 25%. But the main place where they did their work the best was at the free throw line. They only went to the free throw line 11 times. They only missed one. And that's where you win a lot of your games, is at the charity stripe. But for Beal to clutch up the way that he did, to make that bank shot, to make this a victory for this team in their home opener, to start them off 2-0, gives us such a promising look at what this team can be all about. But as I said to myself, I was like, okay, we're starting off 2-0. But I'm still very cautiously optimistic because we all know what happened last year. They started off hot their first 10 games, and then they absolutely pooped the bed the rest of them. So I'm being very cautiously optimistic with this start. But this was really good way to start off your season at home by beating a very talented Bulls team with the lineup that they have, with DeMar DeRozan leading the way.
Yeah, for sure. It was an interesting game. I'm happy that they're able to win because that's a huge disparity, though. 33 free throws to 11. In games that happens, I mean, think about it. If they made two more of their free throws out of the 5 that they missed, right? It's a tie game. It's an overtime game. Make 3 more out of the 5, they win it. And often in games with such huge free throw disparities, it's hard to win them. And I was kind of surprised at home that we weren't getting the calls. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. DeMar DeRozan, he had 11 free throws, and the Wizards as a team, they had 11 free throws. And I think you could go also even further than that the Wizards had missed like a couple of their free throws. If they only made 7 out of 11, or they would have lost this game. So props to them for shooting 91% from the free throw line. But DeMar DeRozan was definitely getting calls at a lot of other Wizards players like Bradley Beal. He is in the first game of making his $250 million deal. He didn't get to the free throw line once in this game. But I think the Bulls, they were pretty beatable due to a couple injuries. Lonzo Ball, he was out, and the bigger one, Zach LaVine, the All-Star from last year, who just signed, I think, a $200 million deal himself. He was out. So it was definitely good. The Wizards were leading through the stretch in the fourth quarter, and then they kind of collapsed down the stretch with a couple bad turnovers. The last one being Bradley Beal kicking out to Gill. Gill didn't really run to the ball, and DeMar DeRozan knocked down a dunk to tie the game. But then Beal, he dribbled out the clock, and he made this incredible shot, as you just mentioned, Robbie, earlier. And I think, yeah, we were all kind of holding our breath because DeMar DeRozan, he did make that three-pointer last year to seal the Wizards' fate. He actually hit back-to-back buzzer beater threes, and it was nice for the Wizards to win, especially they had to win this game, especially with all the injuries that the Bulls are dealing with. In fact, the Bulls just beat the Celtics tonight, who are probably one of the top best teams in the Eastern Conference. So it's good that the Wizards are able to take care of business against the Bulls team that was shorthanded. Good to see Denny back after that ankle injury. He had 6 points, and again, when he was on the floor, they outscored the Bulls by 16 points. Liking the starting unit. I'm just more concerned about the bench. Like Rui, when he was out there, the Bulls that were outscored the Wizards by 17 points, which is pretty bad. So they need to get that bench shored up. But overall, a good win for the Wizards.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate Swatter79, first time chatter in Twitch, say that I followed me on Kane's stream, one of my favorite streamers. Hey, you're cheering for the wrong teams, but I fully respect your takes and dig that you're talking intelligently on multiple sports. So I appreciate that. I like fans of all the teams as well. I realize that streaming on Twitch, there's not a huge Washington DC sports fan base directly on it. I mean, there are some of us out there. I still need to find more, but it's fun to just talk sports with fans that like other sports around the world, which is why I decided to do it on Twitch as well. On Facebook, it's more of the home team fans, because we can share it to a lot of those Facebook groups. But I appreciate people giving their thoughts on whatever teams that they root for, and that makes it fun. I mean, we have moderators that are rooting for different teams right now. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm very happy that we were able to win our home opener. I'm happy that Bradley Beal was able to make that big play down the stretch. I know that he's had issues with that in certain situations. He's got to be that guy for us. And I was just happy that a game that could have fallen away from us, especially with the free throws, and as you said, making the free throws down the stretch. I'm happy that we were able to hold on and get that big victory. And Arun, talk about the defensive play on the last play of the game where they could potentially have won it with a 3-pointer.
Yeah, I guess like they did do a good job of contesting DeRozan on this time around. I think last time he took that shot, Corey Kispert definitely let DeRozan get off like that shot. But I think DeRozan, he got off the shot. He tried to flop his way into another 3 free throws, but it didn't work out for him, and he was going to might knock down the shot anyways. But he was definitely carrying this Bulls team tonight without Zach LaVine, without Lonzo Ball. So even though he didn't knock down the shot, this Bulls team is definitely, the Wizards going to have to play a little bit better than they did down the stretch this one if they want to beat them. But at least they were able to win, and hopefully they'll gain confidence. The Wizards were also playing without Corey Kispert. It was a second-year player from Gonzaga who would definitely help. I think some of those Rui minutes might end up going to Kispert, or even Anthony Gill. He's not going to play probably when Corey Kispert's back. So definitely a good win for the Wizards, even though it was like the Bulls are shorthanded. It is a home opener, and a win is a win.
For sure. All right, let's get into the last game. Unfortunately, this one was a loss. I was curious what Swatter's teams were. My NFL team is the greatest quarterback that never won a chip. My NHL team is never won a cup, and my NBA team is being slept on hard. Just a fun riddle. We won't leave you hanging. Interesting. I'm curious if our panel can guess who this is. NFL team is the greatest quarterback that never won a championship. Who do we think that is?
Warren Moon.
Dan Marino.
Okay. My NHL team has never won a cup, which there's a couple of teams that have never won a cup. Trying to think of, I guess maybe they're all his NBA team is being slept on hard. Maybe they're Miami fans, right? Because if they yeah.
I thought the Panthers won a cup.
I don't think they have. They were good last year, but I don't think they.
He said Dolphins, Marino, good. So yeah, I think there are. I think there are Miami fans. So that would be
Yeah.
Dolphins, Florida Panthers,
Yep.
and Miami Heat.
No, the
Yeah.
Panthers won the Stanley Cup in. Did they? No, I don't know.
Oh, not from the States though. Interesting. But you're a fan of all the. But were we right with our 3 picks? Swatters, you have to let us know. I like riddles. I like this. You're fun. You should join us more often.
Raptors, I guess.
Not from the States. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because maybe if they're not from the area, maybe the teams are from 3 different areas. So that's very possible too. Because it's interesting because I do know international fans that do root for just like 3 different teams. Not specific because it doesn't have to. Raptors is good. Oh, interesting. All right, we've gotten 2 of them, and so the NHL team has never won a cup, so it's not Florida. Interesting. I'm curious. I'm curious. All right. Yeah. Arun's good at this game. And this is why used to take Arun with me to trivia night. Anyway, you'll have to let us know the hockey one because there's a couple teams that haven't won. And now I'm curious, have the Florida Panthers, have they won?
The Panthers did win. But
They did?
yeah. The teams that haven't won a Stanley Cup are the Vegas Golden Knights, the San Jose Sharks, Nashville Predators.
No, they haven't won a Stanley Cup.
No, these are all the teams that haven't won.
But the Panthers are also a team that has not won.
Oh, the Panthers haven't won, yeah. So maybe it's the Panthers, but he's not. If he's not from the US, it could be Ottawa, it could be Vancouver, but I don't know.
Water said they're from Canada.
Oh, interesting. So maybe you're right with the Ottawa one. Dang. Oh,
Vancouver,
West Coast.
He's from the West Coast and Vancouver.
Yeah, there you go. And Vancouver. Okay, very good. All right, that's awesome.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know.
We'll see. No, I think that's a good bet because they almost won it all, but then unfortunately torched their own city after they didn't. So all right, we'll see if we're right. Very good. We did it. Nice. I like it. All right. So this game more disappointing than obviously the rest. The Wizards outscored them by 1 in the first. So this game is in Cleveland, by the way. The Cavaliers outscored them by 7 in the second. Outscored by 1 in the third. The Wizards came storming back, outscored them in the fourth, 27-20 to force overtime. But a lot of bad plays in overtime ended up. The Cavaliers put up 14 points in a 5-minute overtime period. The Wizards only put up 4 for a 117-107 victory. Ken, I'll let you have the first take on this game. Champ?
What can we say about this game? This was a tough one. This was a tough one because I mean the Wizards played this game really solidly. They outshot the Cavs from the floor, even though as well as from 3-point land. And but the main thing that was telling was from the free throw line. The Cavs were much better from the free throw line, even though they had more shots. It was a tough one here. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis had a double-double. Beal had 27. Monte Morris came out and had 13 points in 26 minutes. So that was a really good one, 26 minutes off the bench. But this was a really tough one. It went to overtime, so it was really close. It was really competitive, but the Wizards just did not have enough in them to really push forward and take down the Cavs. And so it's tough. It's really tough. You start off 2-0 with 2 impressive victories against both the Pacers and the Bulls. Pacers on the road, Bulls at home. And then you go on the road and you really play tough and take it to overtime, but can't finish the job. It's tough, but I still have my cautious optimism that this team is really set up for success this season in the Eastern Conference. But this was a bit of a setback here to lose to the Cavs in their stadium in overtime. and hopefully they're able to recover from this, and they're able to come back stronger and able to rock it out the next couple of games.
For sure. Arun, what is your take on this game?
Yeah, the Wizards jumped off to like a pretty big lead early on, like when the starters were in there. I believe they were up by like 8 or 10 points. Porzingis hit a couple threes. Beal was doing backdoor cuts, and then again this bench comes in. They let the Cavs back in, and it's kind of demoralizing to only have a 1 point lead. And that carried out for most of the game. In the fourth quarter, the Cavs were up by I think like 5 or 6 points with a minute to go, and the Wizards somehow were able to tie the game. Kyle Kuzma with a couple incredible plays. But I think in the overtime period, the Wizards actually started out pretty well, and they had a 1 point lead. But Beal, he did this like isolation play where he didn't even pass the ball for the entire shot clock, and then he turned it over. Then he turned it over on the pick and roll play the next game. He ended up with 6 turnovers for the game. Kyle Kuzma missed 2 free throws, and there's little margin for error in these overtime games. And Cleveland, they outscored the Wizards 14-4, and that was ball game. Denny, he couldn't really guard Donovan Mitchell. I think the Wizards probably, even though Monte Morris isn't a great defender, you might as well put the point guard on Donovan Mitchell. Beal did a good job guarding Garland didn't even play in this game, but he did a good job on Karis LeVert, who shot 4-14 from the game. Evan Mobley, the number 2 overall pick, he had 10 points, 7 rebounds. Kuzma, with probably his first below average game of the season, he had a couple key shots in the fourth quarter, but he missed those 2 free throws. Only 2 rebounds for the entire game from your power forward. That's pretty terrible. And Denny only had 2 rebounds. It wasn't like these rebounds were going anywhere. So Cleveland, because the Wizards turned over the ball so much, and they also had more rebounds, rebounded them 48-35. That's probably going to seal the fate for most of these games. So the Wizards definitely have to bring it on the boards more, but they did do enough. They could have actually won this game if they ran their offense better in the overtime period. But I think before the season, last week, I would have taken a 2-1 week and an overtime loss to Cleveland. But a little disappointing not to get the win, but still a pretty good effort on the road in Cleveland.
Yeah. Champ, any final thoughts on this before we take a look at the week ahead?
My only final thought is that, again, it's very disappointing that you start off 2-0, you look very impressive, and you still look impressive in this one, but just fall short in overtime. And they got to shake it off. They got to get ready for these next couple games, because these next couple games are going to be very interesting, to say the very least.
Yeah, let me go through the upcoming schedule real fast. So we've got a game against the Pistons tomorrow at 7. Then the Pacers on Friday, and then the Celtics in Boston on Sunday. And then on Halloween, we have a 76ers at Washington. So not only are we doing a post-game show for the Capitals, we're going to be doing a post-game show for that as well. So I'm going to start off with you, Champ. I'm going to have you break down the first 2, the Pistons and the Pacers, and I'm going to have Arun break down the Celtics and the 76ers. So Champ, why don't you break down the Pistons game?
Okay, Pistons sitting at 1-2 towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. It seems like they don't match up well. This should be a winnable game for Washington, but unfortunately, in the past several seasons that we have been covering this team on this podcast, anytime they have games where they should win, they turn around and they don't win them. So this is a game where they got to make a statement, especially if they're going to be going up against the Pacers on Friday. So they got to win this game. I feel like they're going to win this game. The Pacers game is going to be one you have to keep your eye on, because the Pacers are going to be looking for some get back. They lost on the season opener, their home opener. They're going to look to want to get something back from this team for beating them on the season opener. So they're going to come in hot, heavy, and ready to fight. So they're going to have to come out and give the same energy they did on the season opener against this very same team. And so they're definitely going to need to do that. So I feel like they can start off this week 2-0 they could start off this stretch 2-0, beating both the Pistons and the Pacers to really set the pace for the Eastern Conference. So I'm calling a 2-0 Pistons and Pacers.
Arun, help us break down the Celtics and the Sixers game.
The Celtics, this game will probably be tougher, although the Celtics are just coming off their first loss, and in their first 4 out of or only in one game this season, they've given up fewer than 120 points. So Washington could win this game, but I'm going to be a little bit skeptical and say probably not on the road. I guess this game's in Boston. Even though their head coach is only 34 years old, they've only lost one game so far this season. So it could be a little bit tough. But if the Wizards, it is a winnable game though, if the Wizards can get going offensively. And the Sixers, they've been playing pretty badly. They lost to the San Antonio Spurs. They did play some pretty good teams early on in the season, like the Milwaukee Bucks. But this game actually is kind of more winnable unless Joel Embiid shows he can be that MVP caliber player that he was last year. But right now he's kind of playing out of shape. James Harden, speaking of people get to the free throw line, he's actually playing pretty well. He kept them in that Milwaukee game for most of the stretch. But I think this game is more winnable. And if the Sixers are going to keep struggling, then the Wizards could actually win this game.
Yeah, for sure. So overall, I'll start with you, Champ. You've already kind of given your thoughts on the first 2 games. How do you think the week goes in total?
I'm very concerned about the 2 games with the Celtics and 76ers because they're back-to-back and it's road and then home. Celtics and Wizards are one of the very underrated and not very widely popularized rivalries in the NBA. Everybody remembers, how heated that rivalry has been. And so the Wizards will have a day to travel before they face the Celtics. So that could go either way, but I'm probably calling a loss for the Celtics. But then they got to go back home and face the 76ers, who aren't that strong of a team, if you want to say that. But they won't be coming off a back-to-back against a rival, so they could take advantage of the Wizards at home. But I think the Wizards can fight back and win. So I'm calling a 3-1 week for the Wizards. They'll beat the Pistons, they'll beat the Pacers, and they'll beat the 76ers, but the Celtics might be the one loss on this week.
Yeah. Arun, what are your thoughts on the overall, how you think the week's going to go?
I'm split debating between 3-1 and 2-2. This Pistons team has only played 3 games this season. They did lose to the Pacers and the Knicks, but they beat Orlando. I think that's a win. The Pacers game, I think that's probably also a win. And I guess I'm going to go with 3-1. Right now, the 76ers team is playing pretty badly. It could be 2-2, but I'm saying at least 2-2, and I'm going to go with 3-1 for the week.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-2, but I think that one of those Pistons Pacers games are going to fall. And then they're going to beat the Celtics or the 76ers. So I don't think it's going to be the conventional, win the first 2, lose the second 2, if that makes sense. But I'm curious. I'm asking right now. So I would have said that you've got the Pacers, tough matchup against the Pistons, though. They like bully ball. You may have a hard time banging in the paint. Arun, what are your thoughts on that assessment?
Yeah, the Wizards did pass on Duran, and then they drafted this guy, Johnny Davis, who has gotten a couple of DMPs already this season. I think they could have easily picked him. And yeah, the Pistons definitely do bang the ball, and Ivy's a really explosive player. They're still a little bit young, though. The Wizards have matched up. I think they swept them last year. So I think potentially the Pistons might win a game this year against the Wizards, but I think early on the Pistons have kind of struggled a bit. They are they did just lose to the Pacers by 9 points, and they weren't playing with Miles Turner. So I think the Porzingis and Gafford are better than Smith and the dots say. So, but the big guys, especially that guy Duran. He's a pretty good rookie so far. And right now it's probably the chance to take advantage of the Pistons. I think they'll probably be playing better in the second half of the season.
Yeah, so Swatters has got 2-2, losing to the Pistons and the Celtics. So interesting.
I was gonna say, like, the Pistons and bully ball and banging in the paint. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Wizards in their first 3 games, 58, 44, and 54 points in the paint. And last year, they were one of the best in the paint in terms of points. This is a Wizards team that can play in the paint. So Pistons don't scare me when it comes to the paint, when this is a team that can play in the paint. They average at least over 40 points in the paint. So the paint doesn't bother me. What bothers me is perimeter shooting and long range shooting. That's what bothers me.
And quick point, Ivy, the point guard, that also kind of bothers me more than I guess the paint stuff, I guess. Like Ivy, like I don't know, like is Denny gonna guard Ivy? I don't think so, but I guess the Pistons are gonna have their chance to win. Sadiq Bey is a solid player. Stewart, he almost killed LeBron last year. He's a pretty good big guy, but I think Cade Cunningham, he looks a lot bigger than he was last year as a guard, but their 3-point shooting isn't exactly great. They did shoot 43% from 3 against the Pacers last game, but their defense, they give up under 24 points, and that could be kind of tough. I think the Wizards are also, they're coming off a loss, so I think they're probably going to be motivated. If they had beaten the Cavs, I think maybe they'd have a letdown game, but I think they should. They're probably the most likely to beat the Pistons. And as Ken mentioned, the Pacers game is probably a little bit more concerning because the Wizards did beat the Pacers, but they were kind of coming on strong. And this guy Mathurin, he could win Rookie of the Year. I didn't mention him really before, but he's had like 4 26 or point games, including one against the Wizards, and he's coming off the bench. He should be starting for the Pacers in this game, and it should be probably a more competitive game than the first time around.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, I think that we've done a good job of breaking it all down. I just really quickly, before we let everybody go, I wanted to give our thoughts on the World Series. Both the championships of the different leagues have been crowned. I know that Brian Brennan, a friend of ours, is very upset to be swept once again by Houston, and that's tough for them. But on the other side, the NL East participant is once again sort of in the spotlight. So, and the Nationals beat them in 2019, and then last year you had Atlanta winning, and then this year once again a hot team from the NL East making it all the way to the finals, which is just interesting that our division in both football and in baseball is producing interesting results. I didn't expect in football the NFC East to have the most wins of any division. I just saw the Patriots are the actually only team in the AFC East to have a losing record, but it's just interesting that there's a chance for Philadelphia to continue a trend here. The Philadelphia team looks really good. Arun, have you watched any of the baseball playoffs?
I was watching Yankees Astros, and I just caught the highlights of the Bryce Harper homer. Some of the booing of the Yankees fans and Ted Cruz at the last game, I guess, was also something I noticed. But yeah, it should be overall a very exciting series between the Astros and the Phillies. A couple of former Nationals, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber on the Phillies, and Dusty Baker used to manage the Nationals, and now he's managing the Astros. And he's helped. Is he a great manager because he used to cheat before, and now they're doing it without cheating with Dusty Baker? Or were the Astros always kind of this good, even with, or are they still cheating somehow? I guess we'll find out in a couple of years if they were actually cheating this time around too. But overall, I think it should be a pretty good series.
Swatters is saying, I asked him if he also liked baseball, and he said the Jays, of course, which just makes sense. They're the team of Canada, and they really had the baseball gods strike the hand upon them in game 2 against the Mariners. That was a rough one. I agree. That was an interesting game for sure. There's been some really interesting games throughout this baseball postseason. I'm hoping that it's a good series between these two teams. I know I have a lot of family and friends that pull hard for the Astros. I don't particularly like that team, although I also do not like the Yankees. I mean, I was kind of rooting them for Brian, but I've just historically not liked that team growing up an Orioles fan. Also, a lot of New York fans were very cocky. When they have Aaron Judge doing so well, and early in the season, they're just like cruising through the season. And I always feel like you don't want to peak too soon. Like, I think Philly is kind of doing it right in a lot of ways, where they're peaking at the right time. Although it's hard to count the Astros out. They've won a lot of games in a row, and it's been interesting for sure. I want to say, I'm trying to remember correctly, didn't I'm pulling this up here real fast, but I kind of want to say that Philly played Houston pretty late in the season, maybe even the last series. Yeah, it was the last series. And so is that right? Yeah, it was one of the last series in the regular season, right? Yeah. So they lost 2 of them, but the team that Houston lost last to, if this is correct, is Philadelphia. Yeah. On Monday, October 3rd, their last loss. They've won all the way through the playoffs. Their last loss was to Philadelphia. So at least Philadelphia's got to know that they've been there before. So and recently, it's just weird, Arun, that they'd have an interleague series as the last series of the year.
Yeah, but I think the Astros did win the last 2 games against the
They did, including a 10-0 victory on Tuesday, October 4th, and then a 3-2 victory to end the season. Philadelphia did win game 1, 3-0. But I'm hoping for a good series. I'm rooting for Philadelphia. I'm kind of at the point where I wouldn't mind Bryce Harper winning one. Like, before, it was like kind of, I didn't want him to. I definitely didn't want him to win one before the Nationals did. But at this point, I think I'm gonna pull for Philadelphia. Arun, are you gonna watch the World Series, and do you have a team you're gonna pull for?
Yeah, I'm kind of pulling a little bit for Dusty Baker. I also don't really mind if Bryce Harper wins, but I also don't really not like excited if he wins either. I'm kind of more like, yeah, it's like ambivalent that he wins. It's kind of interesting revisiting that signing now. Like, just now, I think that contract looks like it's aging pretty well, especially like if guys are going to sign like 50 or $60 million a year. Like, Harper's only going to make $25 million a year. So right now, that contract's looking like a good one for the Phillies. And then I don't think the Nats end up trading like everybody, like Scherzer and Turner. I guess in the short term it kind of sucks, but they did come away with the World Series. They did sign Corbin, and maybe the Nationals don't win a World Series if they don't have Corbin, who was a Cy Young finalist that year. But I guess, like, I don't know, I'm more neutral towards this World Series than I have been before.
It's interesting that you feel that way. So did no love of that team rub off on you when you went to college there? Because I have to say, when I went to college in Philadelphia, I started to root for them, and I even rooted for them in the World Series that year and went to the parade. But I guess you were a year ahead of me, so it was a little bit of a different Philadelphia team, but a lot of those guys were still there when you were there. I just didn't know how you felt about them back then.
I think the Eagles fans talk so much crap to me that I think I kind of root against like Philadelphia teams like back then.
It's funny. That was almost reason enough for me too. So I can totally understand that perspective, but I don't know.
I
There was
tend to
something
for the 76ers though because of Iverson back then. Now
I liked Iverson too, and I don't know. I really liked that team, with Howard and Utley, and they were a very likable. Like, I wasn't always a big fan of all of the fans of the Phillies, right? But as a team, they were really fun to watch. And I actually, for people who might not know, went to the very first game in Nationals history, which was in Philadelphia in the season opener. Philadelphia dominated Washington early in those series. Every year, I would say whoever won the series, I'd root for the rest of that season. I go to one game every season between those two for the first 9 seasons, and for the first 7 of them, Philadelphia won. So it was tough for me to jump over. I did jump over eventually when Worth came to the Nationals, and then I decided to do a podcast after that. But Champ, what are your thoughts on this World Series?
I was gonna say, like, my little known fact about me is the very first Nationals game that I went to was against the Philadelphia Phillies. And I left after I think the sixth or seventh inning because they were down 8-0. But looking at this World Series, I'm kind of sad because I wanted Juan Soto to get another ring after he getting traded away from the Nationals to the Padres. So I wanted him to get another ring to say "F you Nationals for trading me to San Diego," but he didn't get the chance. So I'm kind of sad about that. But Bryce could definitely have a chance to get another ring. So I'm gonna.
It'd be his first ring. He didn't win
Oh
with
well,
it.
yeah.
Nationals, remember, in the press
Oh yeah,
conference?
that was my favorite quote ever, where he guaranteed the Nationals were going to win the World Series as the first press conference he gave as a Philly. So like,
Oh shit! Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a very interesting matchup though between these two teams, and clearly Philadelphia has just turned it on at the right time, and that's what it's all about with the playoffs, regardless of sport, is that you turn it on at the right time, and you could turn around and win a championship. And clearly, Philadelphia figured it out and have turned it on. And I think the one thing though is that the baseball fans as a whole, they are going to hate it if the Astros win a chip because of the whole cheating scandal and things like that. They're going to absolutely hate it. So I'm pretty sure 99.9% of the country are rooting for the Philadelphia Phillies to win the World Series. That 1% are the still remaining Houston Astros fans that are still there. But this is going to be an interesting series. If I can try to catch a couple games of this, I might watch it. But it's hard for me to watch it with everything I got going on. But I might try to watch a couple of these games just to see what happens. But I'm rooting for the Phillies. I'm rooting for the Phillies, AL East all the way, because then when the season starts next season and the Nats start beating the Phillies' butts off, we can say we're beating a defending World Series champion. We're better. So that's my thought.
No, I agree, and I'd love for them to only win it the one time, even though they've gone 4 times in 6 years. So for me, like that's at least what I'm going for. And I have also a lot of friends that are big Phillies fans, and for them, I will root for them. And I again have no ill will. I know that a lot of Nationals fans have built up this sort of rivalry. Honestly, Philly thinks of us as probably their 3rd biggest rival, if not 4th. They don't consider us. I think we consider them more of a rival because early on their fans came down and just took all the seats in our stadium. They used to joke that it was their second home, so like so I think Nats fans have a sour taste in their mouth from that, at least the ones that have been around for like 15 years. But it'll be interesting. I'm definitely going to root for Philly for myself, but it should hopefully be a good series. I'm excited. Next week we can at the very end we can give our thoughts on it. But I appreciate you both for breaking it down. It's been a supersized episode, gone for over 2.5 hours. I'm going to let each one of you guys give your final thoughts. Then I'm going to end the Facebook Live. Then we're going to figure out a place to raid over here live on Twitch. I want to thank everyone for tuning in on Twitch. We've had a lot of people come and go, and I appreciate that and all the love for that as well. Arun, I'm going to let you give your final thoughts, and then again, happy Diwali to you. And yeah, final thoughts, and then I'll let you go, and we'll talk to you next week during Halloween.
No, not much really to add. Just saw that James Robinson just got traded to the Jets, so a little bit breaking news. But thanks for having me on, Robbie, and hopefully, so far it's been a pretty good last couple of weeks for DC Sports. hopefully that continues.
Sure. Thank you, Arun. Appreciate your time as always. And Champ, running shotgun with me. I appreciate it as always, especially with Carol working. I love getting your take on things. Let people know what's happening on the No Spots podcast this week. I know you guys are crushing it over there on Twitch, doing lots of different shows. Let people know what's happening this week on your show.
I'm kind of disappointed that Arun didn't have any RG3 facts to walk
I
out
know.
with.
It might be the first time ever.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But we were off last weekend because Sip attended a wedding and reception out of town. So we didn't have a podcast, but we did do live reactions to NXT Halloween Havoc, which was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to hang out with. So this Saturday, we're back with the podcast. We will be recapping NXT Halloween Havoc, which is a really good show, which saw one new champion crowned and a lot of really good things to talk about. We'll also talk about the weekend review as well. I have yet to watch Raw because I've been binge watching Hell's Kitchen, but I'll be watching Raw tomorrow morning. We'll be talking about Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the fallout from Halloween Havoc, AEW, as well as Impact. That'll be this Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live on twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod, as well as the audio on all of our audio platforms as well. And you can check us out on the podcast partners button on SportsOTHP.com.
Yeah, so I was just curious about the podcast. So I'm giving the champ command right there. So it's True No Spots Pod on Twitch, and then if you go to if you go to our website, SportsOTHP, it should be right, and click the podcast partners, as Champ just mentioned. You can click on it over there. The No Spots podcast, if you're into wrestling, is a great one. We also have the both Gil and Anna earlier from the Power Play Point podcast. You can check that out there. We usually have Dujane Bland with the breakdown. He's taken this week off because he's not feeling well, so I hope that he feels better. We'll probably give him next week off too, just because of Halloween and the crazy schedule. But he'll be back in a couple of weeks. And then also Brian Brennan's podcast, Upon Further Review. He did release a new podcast last week, so that one is there too. So all of our podcast partners have been releasing content. So I hope that you check all of them out over there. And Champ, it's been a lot of fun. I wish you well on all of your podcasting adventures this week. Thank you for modding as well. Thank you. Spotters just cheered 25 bits. I very much appreciate that. Thank you for being an active member of chat. I always appreciate people giving the perspective from sports all over the world. I'm going to end the Facebook live stream here. Remember, we're DC Sports without the politics. It's just not a catchphrase, it's what we do. But you can catch us every Monday 9 on Facebook Live, on Twitch. We also have it on all audio podcast platforms and sportsothp.com. We'll be updated tomorrow with the videos and the podcast as well. So we pretty appreciate everyone for listening to the audio stream of this, as well as the people chatting live on Facebook. So thank you, and we'll be back next week for a later start time for a special edition of the Halloween show. That'll be episode 287. So thank you again for people on Facebook and the audio stream, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Arigato, sayonara.
All right, we're gonna stop the recording of this.
Recording stopped.
I really appreciate you, Champ. You can stay along for the raid if you'd like to, or jump out, whatever you need to do. Let's figure out a raid target real fast. If anybody has any suggestions in chat that they want to throw out there as somebody that we'd like to raid, I always like to raid new people as well. A couple people that I'm looking at on my list, if we don't have anybody, we've got the LG Music, who's a good friend of the stream. We did some art for him. Oh, a Pokemon just appeared. Let me see. Check. See what we got. All right, I'll just catch it with a great ball. So if you need that Pokemon, you can go check it out there. So if no one's got any suggestions, I was thinking about rating the LG Music. I don't get to do that very often. And he was on our stream a couple of weeks ago. You can catch it on the VODs and under the art podcast section. So I made merchandise for him. And so he was a really, it was a fun show doing that. Let let me see. I'm going to give him a shout real quickly. For people who might not know the LG music. And I'll give a who is as well. Camp, are you modding anybody? Do you have anybody on that you wanted to throw in the ring as potential possibilities?
Most of the people that I'm on for are offline, so
Okay.
I have really have. Well, I mean, I do have somebody. They're actually playing Apex Legends right now, and he actually mods for me for someone else, and is a really good dude. But if you want to raid,
I think I'd
the
rather
LG,
either. Yeah, I think I either do music or sports is probably ideal for what we do.
yeah. No,
Um,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
all right, so I think we're just gonna do it. We're gonna rate LG since we haven't heard anybody else throwing out any of the other options, and he's a friend of the show, and I appreciate him. So I'm gonna start that raid right now. Oops. Raid. Oh, I forgot you don't do the app for raids. There we go. We're gonna raid over to the LG music. I hope you guys enjoy that. I'll be listening while I edit this podcast down, but I really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Grab whatever the raid or the sub raid. Thank you, Andy, for modding.
Yeah, I already handled the raid and sub raid commands.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I grabbed mine. Everyone grab yours. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in for episode 286. It was a really fun show. I mean, we went for almost 3 hours. Next week will be a little bit of a later start time, 9:30-ish. And we'll probably go to about this time, but we'll start a little bit later. Oh, it's all good, Andy. We had plenty of mods in here. I'm just happy that you were able to tune in. Check out Andy's stream over at Primordial Sounds on Wednesday around the noon hour. He also does it on Sundays. I believe it's at 3 o'clock. I think it's 2 or 3. But you can check out his schedule. It's there. And the show was great. We had a good time, Andy. Talked a lot of different sports, talked about all 4 major sports, which is pretty cool to do on the show. All right, I think we're going to head over to the LG music. If you don't follow him, give him a follow when you get there. Thank you, everybody. I had a fun night tonight, and I'll see you over on the raid.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Sayonara.
Oh, he's doing a podcast tonight. Cool. That's even better. All right.